Welcome back to the Three Lane Podcast. It's been a minute since a big episode has come out because the equipment at Tech for the podcasting room is terrible. There's no other way around it. It does not work. There's too much. There's not enough storage on the computer. The professor takes too long to email me back for it to help me. And then I had an issue last week. He just kind of brushed it under the rug. And kind of just was like, oh, no, you're the reason why, like, you didn't do something right. And then this week we come back, says storage is full, or almost full, and then recording a 30-second video, and it still does the same buffering thing, and I've done everything like I did in the spring. I don't know what's going wrong. I emailed him at like 12:50. I had this recording on Thursday, it is 2:30, still no response. It's just a joke at this point, but yeah, it doesn't work. Maybe next week we'll get it running, but who knows. For right now, we're just going to keep doing it at the house and hoping that at some point it will work next semester because they have a class. So he will have it up and running, but right now we just don't know. Starting off, I think we're going to start with the college football 25. On 12. It was an interesting one. Georgia beat Tennessee. Right, and so what happens? Tennessee was 7, Georgia was 12. They're the first team out. Georgia beats Tennessee. They only move up 2. Tennessee drops from 7 to 11. Tennessee's now the first team out. Georgia's the last team in. Now, ahead of Georgia is Ole Miss, and then 2 spots is Alabama. Both teams that beat us. But at 6 is Notre Dame, and Notre Dame really hasn't beat anybody. And then you have Indiana, who's 10-0, but that's understandable. Penn State being 4th is kind of crazy when they got kind of whooped against Ohio State at Penn State midday. It just doesn't look good. Those are 2 teams, Notre Dame and Penn State, who I think should not be as high. Honestly, I think Notre Dame should be 10. They haven't beat anybody, and they lost to Northern Illinois. So Georgia being 10 is kind of wild again because they had the hardest schedule, and the fact that it's done like that. I mean, they're not valuing the strength of schedule at all. But right now, the 5th seed, and they were talking about it yesterday on Pat McAfee, look like the route, like the seed you want to get in, because right now you play BYU and then Boise State, and then you play the winner of, I'm trying to find the graphic here. Yeah, I can't seem to find it on here, but trying to look at the bracket. It's the 5 spot is like the easiest path through it because you're gonna have the first champion out, and then you're gonna have. So right now, you're gonna play BYU and either Boise State because the first champion. So the top 4 Power 5 conferences. It's really just Power 4 are in. Right. Yes. I don't know how there was like a scenario where a team, one of the top conferences can be out, but like BYU is ranked 14th and they're 12. They jump SMU and Tennessee, and then Boise State is 4, even though they're 12 because they're one of the top 4 conference leaders, but they're the group of 5 champion. Which the group of 5 should just all play each other to see who's the number 1 team, and then that number 1 team get the bid. It's all very confusing, right? And then right now, it's UP. So right now, it's 3 SEC teams on the road for the 9, 11, and 10. Man, Ohio State has such an easy path through because they got to play BYU. BYU plays Ohio State at home. So BYU be away. Then Ohio State travels to Boise State. Then they play away at Boise State. And then the winner of that plays the other bracket. This bracket is all but confusing. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Really, the way they described it, I don't know how that one team was. That was kind of like a chaos scenario. But right now, Indiana, if Indiana gets the brakes beat off them, out of them by Ohio State, they're out. Because right now they're 7. If Ohio State loses to Indiana, they're probably out. If Notre Dame loses, they're out. Because they're 8 right now. Like, Notre Dame hasn't really played anybody. Georgia should win the rest of their season. Ole Miss should. Bama, don't know because of the Auburn rivalry. Ohio State's got to play Michigan. Michigan's bad, but that is always good. And then Oregon's pretty much a lock. Texas, if they lose to A&M, they're not in the SEC championship. A&M's in. And, like, where is A&M? A&M's 15, which then would put A&M in the spot. Which then if you're a team like Georgia, Alabama, or an Ole Miss, you're now on the bubble. All right, like, because now those teams can jump you just because you don't play in that weekend. Another team from the SEC, there's 2 teams that I really look at. South Carolina's starting to make a bit of a run. They're 18. And Colorado is now 16. Those are 2 teams that you've got to look at. And BYU, I forgot BYU just recently joined a conference. They were like Notre Dame, a non-conference team. But, yeah, I mean, it's all very confusing. I get giving every division winner in, right? But, Julian Lewis committed to Deion Sanders on the Pat McAfee show. I missed that part. But, yeah, Clemson, I don't think they have a chance of making it. A&M technically maybe does. Army, they're 19th. They need a miracle. They'd have to win their conference and beat Boise State to make it. And I think the Navy-Army game will not count against them. But Kansas State has fallen out. Kansas State, I mean, I was high on them. It's a shame, but yeah, that's the bracket. If I can find a picture of it, to potentially... Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to try to post that picture up on here to kind of help the confusion. It's just, there's a lot going on. I mean, there is a lot happening here. Miami being 3, they're going to be, because the ACC is not that good this year. The next highest team is SMU. It warms my soul to see Tennessee out. Oh, this wasn't even the right rankings. Because BYU, so BYU and Boise flipped because BYU lost. It's a kerfuffle of the ages, dude. I mean, this is... Here's the one that is the right one. Right, and personally for me, it warms my soul that Tennessee is the first team out. Because, newsflash, if you're watching this, Georgia beat Tennessee at home 31-14. It was big, something like that. Tennessee did not look good. And all the fans, of course, were like, you know, it's the refs, because there was 2 controversial calls, okay? 17-31. Tennessee had one play over 20 yards. Nico threw for 137 yards. They only ran for like 150. The refs, to me, the way I was raised and the way I was coached, if you're in a position where the refs play an impact, you did not play well enough to win that game. If you do the things you need to do right, the refs should not matter. And Tennessee did not. Offensively, they could not move the ball. They could run. They just could not throw the ball. And you can't beat Georgia by just running the ball. And as well, Carson Beck had like a legacy game. He threw for 347 yards, 2 touchdowns. He ran for 32 yards and a touchdown. He did well. Oscar Delp, and I said this to start the game, he was a former number 1 tight end in his recruiting class. He was supposed to be the replacement of Brock Bowers. He had under 60 yards receiving on the year. He doubles it. 4 catches, 56 yards, 2 touchdowns. And when we involve the tight ends like him, like Lawson Lucky's been good, right? But he's not downfield explosive just yet. Oscar Delp is that Brock Bowers downfield explosiveness, and we've missed that, and he's a good security blanket, and he did it. I mean, we had 5 guys over 50 yards receiving, and I think I saw all guys had catches over 20 yards. So, to me, you want to blame the refs, but here's the thing. Their defense didn't do what they needed to. Your offensive line did not hold up. Your quarterback got sacked 5 times. Like, Georgia did not get sacked at all. We did not allow a sack. You cannot blame the refs. It was a bad showing. It was at home, but you talk all this game. You know, and what I don't like, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Josh Heupel. I think he's a Mike McDaniel. He's a better OC than he is a head coach. Him then feeding into it. It's like, and I'll say this, the Tennessee Volunteers are the Cowboys of college football. They start off well, they do good, and then when the big games happen, they lose, and they blame the refs, and they come up with stupid excuses. You just got beat. Take it in your stride. You still can make it in the playoffs. It's a joke that they are this upset. They didn't really play anybody really well. They didn't have like any massive wins. Like, yes, they beat Bama, but they had not scored for like 3 quarters. So you cannot look at them and be like, "Oh, we beat Bama." Yeah, okay, but you almost lost that game. Yeah, Georgia lost to them, but you take out 1 bad quarter. Like, 1 bad quarter compared to 3 bad quarters is 2 different things. Okay, and then you lose to Arkansas. Like, Dylan Simpson had himself a game. Outside of that, Nico lost a fumble. It was not good. Not a good game from them. Smile Mundon came back great. This Georgia team is weird. If this is Carson Beck turning the page, he can put himself back in the first round of the draft, and then also play this team into a championship. This team has championship upside, but can also be really bad, like we saw against Ole Miss. Be quite frank with you as a Georgia fan. I mean, this team can be terrible, but I think the Ole Miss loss, and they said it on game day, Georgia's 9-0, 8-0, now 9-0, coming off a loss under Kirby Smart. They've won 9 straight. It was like Nick Saban. Nick Saban rarely lost a game back and forth. I think we're seeing, not exactly Nick Saban, but the closest we'll ever have to Nick Saban because he's such a protege of Nick Saban. You watch the practices, very similar. The way they coach, very similar. And you're seeing the branch off. So I think Dan Lanning was part of the Bama staff. And then he was for Kirby for so long. That branch off, and you're seeing another disciple of that tree in Dan Lanning, who is very similar to both of them. And Dan Lanning's a great guy, a great coach. And I'm like, Oregon will probably win this thing because they play so well. And I think last year was good because they played teams like Georgia and whatever. And he was like, look, this is the expectation. We want to be good. We need to be like them. Not carbon copy, but we need the structure like them. And if you want to win, this is how it's done. And he said that. He brings in Dylan Gabriel. They've got an elite receiving core. Good O-line. And he's a heck of a defensive coach. And he's old school in a way that I think he makes that Oregon team better. I mean, looking at this 12-team bracket, Oregon, I mean, they play the winner of Notre Dame, Alabama. It's going to be Alabama. And Alabama, I mean, you put Dan Lanning, who is a defensive savant, and you'd be like, yeah, go attack Jalen Monroe, who's got massive holes. And I saw someone compare him to Anthony Richardson. He's gonna be a field day because Jalen Monroe has so many holes in his game that you can. If you take his legs away from him, the ability to run, there's a small chance he beats you with his legs. And if he beats you with his leg, tip your cap. You did it. You proved me wrong. But I mean, like, I test that. Like, let's be honest, Notre Dame every year they get blown out. They're not that good because they're a non-conference team. They don't play conference games. So they just play these mid-teams out of the Pac-12 or what used to be the Pac-12. And then these medium group of 5 teams, and they just make it in because it's Notre Dame. And they'll play this one big game. Like, their big win is A&M. It's Texas A&M. And that's it. And then they went on to lose to Northern Illinois. Like, that Northern Illinois loss is huge. Massive. I know they're group of 5, but, like, That hurt them a lot. Same thing with BYU. Boise State, thing is, they played the number one team in the country, by far the number one team in the country, Oregon, and they beat them early on in the year. Ashton Jeanty is having the best season as a running back outside of, I think, that guy that was the running back for the Lions. I'm drawing a blank. He's a Hall of Famer. His best season since him. I mean, he's playing better than the past 5 Heisman running backs, and he probably will not win it just because of the spectacle of Travis Hunter being a two-way player. You take Travis Hunter, and here's the thing. The Heisman's like the MVP. You take that player off the team, where they're going to be. You take Ashton Jeanty off Boise State, terrible. Terrible. You take Travis Hunter off Colorado, they're still going to be good. And I think you have to get that to him. But Travis Hunter's probably going to win it because he's a two-way player, which is fair. I mean, there's not much argument there. But the man that deserves it the most is Ashton Jeanty. But I digress. We're going to move on to the NFL. And just we're not going to talk about past week's game because when this comes out, it's going to be these games are about to be happening for this week. Outside of Daniel Jones got benched, and he's now QB4. It was QB3, but he's now behind Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, Tim Boyle, and now it's him. And he was playing scout team safety. It's bad. They've done it. It's the same thing that happened to Russell Wilson last year. You put him in a position where he can't get hurt, and his injury guarantee can't kick in of 30-something mil. So then you cut him, and you don't have to worry about that guarantee. And, there. Dayball's probably gone. The GM changed something, and I'm about to watch the Hard Knocks, needs to go. You let Saquon go. You lied to the owner about it, the whole thing. You had to know Saquon's, that Philadelphia's in the bidding for it. And then this Daniel Jones extension, it just didn't work out well. Evan Neal has been a bust. They haven't developed well. And that's on Dayball. I mean, Dayball's doing best as he can with what he's got, but, at the same time, it's not good. He's just not played well. Right? And they have nobody that is leading anything. Xavier McKinney leaves them. He let Xavier McKinney go, and he's now second in the league with 6 interceptions. Right? It's a joke. Saquon Barkley's second in the league in rushing yards, and he's about to catch Derrick Henry. The only guy that's up there is Dexter Lawrence, and he has 9 sacks. And this is an odd group of top 5 of sack leaders. This is like 2018 when Vic Beasley won it. You have Trey Hendrickson, who's been an elite pass rusher, 11.5 sacks. Dexter Lawrence with 9. He's 340-pound D tackle. Nick Petito with 9. Dante Fowler with 8.5. And Andrew Van Ginkel with 8. That's just a wild group of guys. You have the 2 LSU guys leading and passing and receiving yards. And, we'll talk about these other teams. But it's bad. Both New York teams are going to clear house. And I'm about to talk about what happened with the Jets and all that's come out. But Dayball's got to go. You've got to fire the GM. You've got to clear house. This has been nothing short of a disaster in what happened in New York. Both New York teams, but especially with the Giants, and we'll get to the Jets in just a second, it's been nothing short of a disaster. You've got to move forward. There's nothing left you can do. You've got a defense that you can build around. You've now got to go out and get a quarterback. And Tommy DeVito's the starter now. They're tanking that they can get somebody good. I'm going to come out with a mock draft as soon as this semester's over with, because I'll have more time. But, you can get a solid quarterback, and if not, you trade back at another first-round pick or a second-round pick. You then get your quarterback, and then you address other needs, like the offensive line, which they did a terrible job of addressing, and another tight end, another receiver or a tight end. But Theo Johnson looks good. You put someone, you get another 2, because Darius Slayton's going to go. And Wan'Dale Robinson, he looks like a good number 3. You get a number 2. You go out and you get maybe another corner or a linebacker. Because Dante Banks, also, Evan Neal's a bust. Dante Banks does not look good either. He's barely playing. And I know Washington's got their issues, and we're going to kind of break down this whole conference when we go game to game. But, this is a lot of news. Daniel Jones is QB4. It is bad. And it's a guarantee he's going to get cut. And I don't know. Maybe the Raiders. Maybe. Give him a chance. He might be just a journeyman backup, which is fine. Plenty of guys make money like that. Ryan Fitzpatrick made bank as a backup. But I don't know if he even gets there because he's been so bad. Since he signed that extension, he's only won 2 games. Tommy DeVito in 1 year won 3 games. So they're tied. Just bad. Now on to the Jets. And this week got out of hand. They fired Joe Douglas, who had a few good years. He had that elite, 2020 or 2021 draft class with Quentin Williams, Sauce Gardner, and some of those guys. And he found guys, Bryce Huff, Quincy Williams, DJ Reed, Chuck Clark, guys all around. Garrett Wilson and Sauce. Great pickup. Mekhi Becton he missed on, but Elijah Vera Tucker looks good. But, this year, I think he missed on the biggest one. And, it's probably one of the guys that is going to be top 3 in Rookie of the Year, Brock Bowers. He trades back a spot, misses him, goes tackle, which is, yes, a need, but you signed 2 future tackles, and you draft a backup tackle that's going to sit this year. You draft a tackle that's going to be a project instead of a tight end who is got 70 receptions and 700 yards receiving for the Raiders and Brock Bowers. And I sat and me and Kermit pounded on the table. Brock Bowers is your guy. But what happens? Aaron Rodgers has no security blanket. Because all these other guys are big guys and they got all these personality. Brock Bowers just plays ball. And if you put him in there, you don't have to worry about Tyler Conklin. 700 yards of offense. That opens up the whole field for other guys. The offense looks completely different. It looks completely different. But they don't. Joe Douglas missed it. And now, Woody Johnson has been terrible for this organization. It came out, and I don't even know if I had the picture of it. He pushed for. He wanted Alan Lazard to get traded. He pushed for the Mike Williams signing. He blocked the Bryce Huff extension. There was another signing he pushed for. The Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses. Okay, because all this really did not make sense when coming to the draft, right? Because they're like, well, why are you going to draft? You signed 2 tackles. Morgan Moses is going to be there for a bit, right? So I guess you put the back Olu on the other side, but still at the same time, you've got to win now. You knew at minimum you have 1 year with Aaron Rodgers, right? Then week 4 comes around, and Woody Johnson, and this is not a lie, Joe Douglas and other people spilled the beans as soon as Joe Douglas got canned this week. Woody Johnson, who's a former ambassador, he makes all these decisions. He comes in, and he's like, I want to bench Aaron Rodgers. Pardon? And he's telling everybody that he wants to bench Aaron Rodgers to the point where guys are like, you're joking, right? And then he fires Robert Saleh without talking to anybody. Apparently no one knew. Joe Douglas did not know. This came from Woody Johnson himself. It's been a joke. This is the most Jets thing ever, where the owner is self-sabotaging this team. It is. Let me see if I can find it. Because Joe Douglas, let it go yesterday or 2 days ago. Because Diana Taurasi was like, yeah, this is what's happening. She wrote an article, and she is a credible source. Former lady that worked for ESPN. Yeah. He suggested it after week 4 loss. He also pushed for the Devontae Adams trade. No one wanted it. Everyone was stunned by the suggestion. He fired Robert Saleh without asking. And he pushed for the... Oh, okay, this is who else he pushed for. He pushed for the Hassan Reddick trade. These are things where, you're going all in, but no one else wanted. And, listen, I get going all in, but you need to listen to the people who know what they're doing. And he did not. Bryce Huff extending him after the year he had would have been fantastic. You trade Alan Lazard in a second-round pick for, I forgot who it was. I think it was Devontae Adams. You do that. But He wanted to keep his buddies there. And it comes out, the players are checked out. And they're ready for the season to be over. And it comes out too, they probably won't bring back Aaron Rodgers next year. So you spent all this capital, all this cap space, everything to be mediocre, be one of the worst teams of all time, and you're just going to cut shit. And because one of your owners did not know what they're doing, and he went too far. It's like the thing you're seeing in Jacksonville. Like that joke of where Tony Khan, the owner of AEW wrestling organization, is your player operations director. Because his dad owns the team. Like we've seen with the Falcons. Where they had their GM step down because the owner's son was like influencing decisions because like it was 2K. And that Hawks team is just now starting to turn around. 2 years. For 2 years they let that guy do it. You can't let people who are not educated in these type of situations make these type of decisions, and they did. I mean, and people are asking for Woody Johnson to go back overseas. Yes, there was an effort. Here it goes. Woody Johnson nixed the Jets' effort to acquire Jerry Jeudy, impeded Joe Douglas on Bryce Huff and Hassan Reddick. So it was Jerry Jeudy because they wanted to add another receiver. And that would have been great. Jerry Judy's playing well in Cleveland. But what does he do? Apparently, Joe Douglas has had no power these past few weeks. They were believed to have offered a day 2 pick and Alan Lazard. But he nixed it. And instead, he pushed for Tyron Smith, Mike Williams, and Morgan Moses. He also, okay, so I'm reading this now. Joe Douglas was warned about them needing to extend Hassan Reddick. Woody Johnson was against it. And then they nixed the Bryce Huff extension. And then he also drove the effort to have Tony Adams benched in Week 11. This is terrible. They fired the assistant GM and then player personnel director like last offseason. And Woody Johnson prevented Joe Douglas to replace him so he could have power. I mean, this is an article about the article that was written. It's a joke. I mean, it isn't a joke of an organization. You cannot make this up. As much as you want to say the NFL is a professional league, it is really not. I mean, it is not. It's a joke. It is a freaking joke. Now, moving forward, and at the end of this, we'll have dudes of the week for the NFL, and then we'll move on to the NBA, which has some news of its own. Pittsburgh plays Cleveland. Then Pittsburgh beat Baltimore 18-16. This is going to be a butt kicking. Now, it's going to be two rivals, but let's be honest. They're going to wipe the floor with them. They're just going to wipe the floor. Cleveland can't run the ball. Highsmith is out. But, I mean, still, Jarek Wilson's out. DeJuan Jones is out. They're missing their top two tackles. Jeremy Owusu-Kamara may have to retire. I mean, what is the win percentage? It's 55% just because of the respect because of the NFL team. Pittsburgh, I think Pittsburgh's going to win it. Next up, Minnesota, Chicago. Matt Eberflus, I mean, they lose another game. I mean, who did they play last week? I mean, this was... They lost that blocked field goal to Green Bay. Caleb Williams did not play well. I mean, he led a game-winning drive, but he did not score the touchdown. It's just getting worse. And in the rankings, I had him, 19? 17? I had him dropping. There are 3 quarterbacks ahead of him. All 3 were taken behind him. And it goes Jaden Daniels, I'd say Bo Nix now, and Drake May. Drake May looks great. I know his interceptions are high, but this is a terrible receiving corps. Drake May looks fantastic. Bo Nix is gaining confidence. Caleb Williams, reports came out. I wanted to talk about this in the last episode, and I did. Reports are coming out that they can't do the same things they wanted to do. Like, let me pop up my notes. They wanted to do all this stuff with him, and they could. Yeah, so there's the Friday episode last week of picks where they were talking about the Bears segment, or Bears versus Packers, right? They were talking about it. They are having to. Caleb Williams got the playbook when they did the interview at the combine. They gave him the playbook. They're like, study it. He does not understand the offense. They were having to scale back the offense because he cannot understand it. There was this just came off national TV. This was on the NFL broadcast. That he doesn't understand it. That he can't, it doesn't work well. That they can't do certain things because he doesn't really fully understand it. He doesn't know what to do. And it's limiting this offense. And it's pissing guys off. Because he came in so arrogant and so cocky and full of himself after he had a disappointing year at USC. And now he's just sucking air. I'm sucking air. Let me see if I can find this clip on YouTube. Because, there are multiple players now. And these are multiple reports. Yeah, NFL.com. Bears plan to simplify offense for Caleb Williams. That is damning. That you fire your OC, the new one it comes in, it's like, yeah, we have to simplify it. To just help the offense be average, because it's not. The passing game is not. And to get DeAndre Swift going, it has to be. DeAndre Swift is barely an above average running back, and I love him because he's from Georgia, but we've got to be honest where we're at here. And that's just, it's so damning. Who are they playing? They're playing Minnesota. Minnesota's going to torch him. Because Brian Flores, that defense is nasty. It's nasty. Let's look. You've got a guy in the top 5 interceptions in Byron Young. You've got a guy in the top 5 in sacks. There's multiple guys. So we're going to look at it. They got a guy with 8 sacks. 2 guys with 7. That's 22 sacks between 3 guys. I think that's more than the Falcons have combined. Oh, and by the way, they have Dallas Turner. Let me look up the Vikings. This team, and I hate the slander that comes against them. They lost a game. Here we go. This defense is better than it usually is. Justin Jefferson leads the league second in the league in receiving yards. Aaron Jones has played pretty good. Their running attack is mid, but Jordan Addison's your 2 receiver. Naylor as your 3. That's pretty good. Sacks. Ivan Pace has 3. Cashman has 3. Harrison Phillips has 3. Then you have Dallas Turner, Harrison Smith, Ward, Redmond. They've got 35 sacks. They are 4th in the league in sacks. And a team that people dog on, that's 5th, is the Houston Texans with 34. Giants have 36. Denver has 39. That's crazy. But Oh, okay, we'll talk about this in a minute. But, I mean, you just can't make that up. I mean, this Caleb Williams, and I said this before, and I said this when we were talking about the draft. There's something off about him. He's not a dog. He's just not a dog. He was a dog in his first year. He's a bit of a dog his second year, but the third year, it was gone. And it was mesmerizing. I mean, the way he was acting like, he was like, I want to call my mama and cry. Brother, you sucked. You've got to fix it. Don't be like, I want to call my mama and cry. Brother, what? And put the nail painting thing aside, right? Like, do whatever you want. It's just, and him not taking accountability for things. And the arrogance, telling the punter that, the punter has more yards than him. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. Now, and I digress. They got to fire Eberflus. You've got to get an offensive-minded head coach in there. For whatever you have available, you've got to pay that OC in Detroit a fat amount of cash. And hope and pray Detroit does not up his salary again, like they've been doing to keep him there. And hope that you can lure him away. Because that's the only guy who I think could turn Caleb Williams into a superstar. I mean, because it just doesn't... I mean, when you look at this, brother, it's just not good. It's just not good. They're having to simplify the offense for him because he can't understand it. And he's had the playbook since, like, January. Whenever the combine is, he's had that playbook before the draft. And he got drafted in April, which is still a while. So it's just mind-boggling. Now, yes, Shane Waldron was bad last year with Justin Fields, and everyone put that together. It was like the OC last year with the Steelers, where you just knew it was him. Like, he played a part in it. But also, you look at it, Caleb Williams is playing like he's holding on to the ball too long, trying to create too much, always looking for the big play, and it's causing him to get sacked and causing holding penalties and players down the field. He's trying to make throws that he can't make just yet, and it's causing turnovers, incompletions, and he's freaking out, and it's not good. All right, next up, Detroit, Indianapolis. Man, this is going to be butt-kicking. Detroit's elite. I mean, Detroit is elite. They're beating people like silly. And Jared Goff, I mean, there's not much to say about this team. This team is just elite. I mean, there's just no two different ways about it. I mean, the only thing I wish they would improve would be their pass rush. And I know they tried to address it. And I said this last year, you're going to need a second pass rusher. No, and they didn't. And everyone was like, well, they'll be fine because Aiden Hutchinson. But the issue was they still didn't have much of a pass rush outside of Aiden Hutchinson. They don't have one now. And then Alec Anzalone is hurt. He broke his forearm, will be out the rest of the year. Jack Campbell looks good. Malcolm Rodriguez looks good. They don't have Derek Barnes yet. So there goes 2 of their 3 starting linebackers, which is huge. But Jack Campbell leads the team in tackles. I mean, there's questions about his drafting in the first round, but he looks worth it in like his second or third year. What year is it? His second year. He was drafted 18 out of Iowa. You know, there's questions about it, and then he's paid off. This offense, Jameson Williams has played 2 less games than Amon-Ra. He's got a little over 100 yards less than him. The number 3 receiver, I mean, it's Cliff Raymond, Tim Patrick, you know, but David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs are ahead of him. Sam Laporta's having a bit of a down year, but as you know, who cares? The running game is nasty. I mean, 18 touchdowns between the both of them. And then Jared Goff, yes, he had that 5 interception game, but like, he's only been sacked 18 times. It's just stupid. This team is just really good. They're gonna make a lot of noise. They're the people I think who are gonna win the title. Just because they're just an elite team. And it's Shaw, who I think they drafted in the second round. Could have got a pass rusher. I mean, the formula's there with what the Texans did. They went out and they acquired Danielle Hunter, put him outside of Will Anderson, and they looked great. Again, they were top 5 in sacks as a team. Their defense is 4th overall. I mean, The Cowboys are bad, but the Texans dogged on them. And I'm going to talk about this in a second once we get to one of these teams. But, yeah, I think Detroit's going to beat them. New England versus Miami. This can be an interesting game. Drake May versus Tua. I think Miami wins this maybe, but New England's the fighter now. They're competitive with Drake May. I mean, he's balling out. And I love what I see from him. Yes, the turnovers are a bit of an issue, but, like, you have to look at it and say, well, if he has a better receiving core, is he better? I mean, simple as that. Is he better? 9 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, but, I mean, like, you give him a better receiving core. Hunter Henry's his leading receiver. Then Demario Douglas is second. Keyshawn Butte. I mean, it's just... Jalen Polk has 80 yards. And he was what? A second-round pick? Almost the first. I mean, they've got to figure out a way to get him involved in the game. KJ Osborne has 57 yards receiving. I mean, you're two guys who you're like, yeah, young guys who can be future dudes. Aren't really getting played much. It's an interesting team, but they found their quarterback of the future, but I don't know about this week. Next up, Tampa versus New York. Tampa's going to beat them. New York is just, they're tanking. If I honestly were them, I'd get one of the top non-quarterback guys and look at the next draft class because Lenore Sanders and Archie Manning look great. Lenore Sanders is playing out of his ever-loving mind, and I thought so earlier in the year, but he couldn't stay healthy, and he was turnover-prone. Well, he stopped the turnovers and has stayed healthy, and good Lord Almighty has he gone nuts. And we'll talk about that in a second. Next up, Dallas versus Washington. Dallas is going to get whooped. They're playing in Washington. I mean, the Commanders are so good. Now, yes, Jaden Daniels is hurt. And it's kind of disappointing. He can't run they pretty much told him to stop running the ball. And that's a big part of his offense. 7 of his 17 touchdowns have come from running the ball. But you've got a 3-headed monster in Brian Robinson, or 4 of his touchdowns, sorry. I was looking at Brian Robinson. But you look at the 3-headed monster, Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols. I mean, they're going to carry it. Then Terry McLaurin looks good. Zach Ertz, I mean, he's been in the league so long. I saw he played with Michael Vick. That's crazy that he played with Michael Vick. Michael Vick was in the league in 2013. Which I forgot that he was. Because a lot of tight ends don't make it this far. Yeah, he played 7 games. This was his last year. Because Nick Foles took over and led the team. Because they had LeSean McCoy. Yeah, then he played for the Jets for 10 games, and then the Steelers. The career fall off. He had that one good year in 2010, but did not know that. They also had LeSean McCoy. And D'Amico Ryans was the starting was the leading linebacker. That is impressive. But again, this team, the Cowboys are so bad. Half the team has freaking podcasts and you catch Micah Parsons, he's talking trash. And again, he did not perform when they needed him to. He's running his mouth. Him and another guy, Diggs, talking about the Texans, how they put belt to ass past few years. And it's brother, no one cares. Y'all didn't win anything back then either. It's now, and the defense did not perform. Why are you running your mouth? You got your butt handed to you. Joe Mixon ran for 3 touchdowns. Just because you're upset he taunted towards you? It's just a joke. That's another joke of an operation. Where just guys, guys are laughing and joking, and you're actively competing for a top pick in this upcoming draft. I mean, it's what are we doing here? They got Trayvon Diggs leads the team. Yeah, it's Trayvon Diggs. Why are you running your mouth? Like, why are you running your mouth? You have been getting whooped all year. You do not look good. I mean, the most sacks on this team is 4. It's just a joke. I mean, like, this team, whenever they're like losing, they're like, yeah, we're going to talk trash. Why? About what? Like, it's a joke. Kansas City is playing Carolina. They lost last week to the Bills. They're going to mop the floor with Carolina. There's not much to talk about here. Tennessee versus Houston. And here we go. We're going to talk about this. The top 5 defensive leaders, Eagles, Tennessee, Denver, Houston, Kansas City. Tennessee being 2 is wild to me. Their offense, though, is just terrible. Cannot run the ball. The Titans, they spent that money on Tony Pollard, and it has failed. They cannot run the ball at all. Houston's going to murk them because Danielle Hunter had 2 more sacks. They just pick which guy to go off, which guy to be a game wrecker. It's insane. And speaking of game wreckers, going back to the Pittsburgh Cleveland, you're looking at TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. 2 guys are competing for DPOYs every year. TJ Watt should have won it last year, but people said that, reason why Myles Garrett got it was for like reparations for the past few years, which, I mean, I understand. But TJ Watt deserves it here soon. I don't know if he's going to get it because of other guys like Trey Hendrickson, Kirby Joseph, Dexter Lawrence, but it is what it is. But Houston's playing good. I mean, they got Nico Collins back. Tank Dell's going to start coming into his own. John Mechie looks good. Joe Mixon had 3 touchdowns last week. It was the Joe Mixon thing. That's why Michael Parsons was talking about how they beat the Bengals. And it's like, well, he was on the Bengals then. Stop. Like, Micah Parsons is too fixated on the pass. It's talking about how because Joe Mixon high-stepped in the end zone. He had a hat trick on you. Yeah. Don't talk trash about the pass when he just got 3 on you. Like, that's... Micah Parsons is a joke. He's overrated. He's so overrated. He acts like a child. It's just, I know that's like a hot topic, like hot take, Micah Parsons is overrated, but like everyone's starting to come around on that slowly. Like Dak Prescott, it took him about 2 years, but like this is year 1 of the Micah Parsons is overrated thing. I said it last year, but he had 14.5 sacks, so like you can kind of look at that, but I mean he gets them in bunches against bad teams. I think Houston beats Tennessee. Tennessee is tanking for a top pick, and they either go tackle Travis Hunter or Shadur, or Garrett Nussmeier, Cam Ward. Next up, Denver versus Vegas. Vegas, man, I mean, they are just happy to have Brock Bowers. I mean, that's the only bright spot of that team outside of Max Crosby. They're terrible, dude. And Denver, Nick Petito's been huge for them, getting all those sacks. Bo Nix is now jumping into the Rookie of the Year case. I haven't updated the thing yet, and I'll update it next week, but, like, I put him over Brian Thomas and Tyrone Tracy and Drake May and Marvin Harrison. And Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman. Even Ladd McConkey had a great game, though. Dak Frazier, Joe Wall, maybe not Quinion Mitchell yet, because Quinion Mitchell's a lockdown corner already, but he's playing well. San Fran versus Green Bay. I think San Fran, I don't know who's going to win this. I mean, both teams are in a weird situation this year, but it's going to be an interesting game. Christian Watson went off for 150 last week, which was wild to see. San Fran's kind of nicked up Christian McCaffrey's back, though, but they're not going to give Jordan Mason any carries, and I think that's just stupid. The brother's so close to 1,000 yards. Feed him the ball. He needs 300 yards. Just feed him the ball. Arizona versus Seattle, 2 teams in their division fighting for top place. I don't know who's going to win that, because nobody's great in that division. Nobody's like really good. I don't know who will win that. Geno Smith played well recently. Arizona's playing great running the ball. I just don't know. And then next up, Philadelphia versus Las Angeles, the Rams. Philly, I have Philly in that. Because the Rams defensively are lacking so much. Saquon Barkley's on an MVP level. Jalen Hurts is behind him, but on an MVP level. The defense is the number 1 defense in the league. They've got a top 5 offensive line that is healthy. I mean, all the way healthy. And this team is the healthiest they've been in a minute. Bryce Huff is going to miss the rest of the year. But Quinion Mitchell is so good. It's like he's your lockdown number one corner already. I think he puts he locks down somebody. And yeah, I mean, just that's who it is. Then Baltimore versus Los Angeles. There's a book count on Lamar Jackson. Only the Steelers right now can do the book, and that is blitz early, make him uncomfortable, sit in zone on third down, and it kind of gets Lamar Jackson flustered. But they're the only team that can commit it properly without him breaking a big one. The Chargers look good. I mean, they can run the ball with anybody. Ladd McConkey is playing nuts. I mean, I think he's got 600 and something yards receiving too. I mean, both guys played well. I think he's their leading receiver, 615 yards. And he's got 4 touchdowns. Then Palmer's second, and then Quinion Johnson. He has 6 touchdowns. Don't know how he's acquired all that. And then Will Disley, J.K. Dobbins, and then Simeon Fajico, Jalen Rager, Hayden Hurst, Cami Vidal, who's their third-string running back. Herbert's playing great. I mean, there's nothing you can there's no hate on him. 13 touchdowns, 1 interception. I don't like the hype of him being an MVP candidate, but he's played really good. Only 218 yards per game. Again, I need to see more for him to be an MVP candidate. But this defense is scrappy. Tuli Taputi, I don't know. Outside linebacker has 7 sacks on the year. Then you have Khalil Mack, 4.5. Bosa's on this team. He's got 3. Bud Dupree's got 5. Morgan Fox has 3.5. Poona Ford has 3. This is a solid squad. I mean, a very solid squad. But I think Baltimore beats them. I just think Baltimore has too much. Then Atlanta, who got blown out by Denver. I don't know what to think about this team. It's just they need a pass rush. And another team that missed it. You draft a backup quarterback when you could draft one this year with a high pick. You go Carson Beck. You have him sit behind Kirk Cousins, and he probably balls out. And you go out and get a Dallas Turner a lot to somebody. You don't. And you can't attack the quarterback. And you're just people are throwing the ball so much on you because you can't pick every pass. And it's just, they're going to probably win the division because the division is one of the worst. But, I mean, and this Saints team is good. I mean, their head coach has just won 2 straight games, and they played well. And he's now getting Taysom Hill back involved. Taysom Hill's getting paid a decent bit of money, and he's doing Taysom Hill things. There's a few situations where an interim head coach does so well, he earns his spot. Antonio Pierce was one of them. And this cat, I forgot his name, Pat McAfee, I mean, there's great stories about him. He's a great coach. He's doing something, why not? Why not make him the full-time head coach? He's definitely got these guys. I mean, New Orleans is in hell right now with the cap space. They're $80 million over. It's going to take 3-4 years for them to get back under the cap space and get back in normal place where it's not like you're 70 over this year, you're 80 over next year, then you're 60 over the next year, 50, 40. They just keep kicking the can down the road. I think the GM's about to get fired or did get fired. If he hasn't, he does need to be because he does not know how to manage the cap. And it's like the 3rd straight year where they're over at least $40 million. And that's a lot. And then to restructure deals to somehow sign a guy. I mean, the Derek Carr signing, I get it. You need somebody because we're still looking for the replacement for Drew Brees years later. But you have no money, none, and you then put yourself even further over the cap because you signed Derek Carr, and it just doesn't make sense at all, whatsoever. Buffalo. I mean, Josh Allen's in the MVP conversation, top 3. He won them a game. They knocked over the first hurdles. They beat the Chiefs in the regular season. Now you got to beat them in the postseason. And that's what he said. This does not really matter we gotta beat them in the postseason. But they played great ball. Keon Coleman's hurt right now, but he should come back. Matt Milano may come back. Amari Cooper is starting to get more comfortable with the team. This is a dangerous Buffalo squad. I mean, dangerous. The Cincinnati, man, they lose another game. I mean, I fired Zach Taylor. I mean, I know he's done good, but him and Kevin Stefanski came in around the same time. Kevin Stefanski, you cannot blame him for what's going on. He can't help Deshaun Watson sucking. He comes out, Cedric Tillman's playing well, Jared Judy's playing well. Last year, Jerome Ford looks good. He's doing what he can. Zach Taylor just can't. I mean, some of these schemes, I mean, Terry Hendrickson's playing well, but they can't stop the pass at all. They're struggling to run the ball. The offensive line's been a mess. Amarius Mims, they needed somebody to sit ahead of him for him to develop for another year. It just doesn't look good. And this receiving core, T. Higgins is going to walk. And they have Jermaine Burns. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be the replacement for T. Higgins. Has not played well, and he's acting like a child. It just doesn't. And Joe Burrow does not look healthy. This wrist thing, I don't know what he did in the offseason to not help his recovery. But he just does not look good. Oh, he doesn't look the same. Then, next up, the Jets. I've already talked to them. Terrible. Both New York teams, terrible. Clean house with both of them. Woody Johnson needs to sell the freaking team. It's just a joke. Jacksonville, you've got to get rid of Khan, the owner's son, and you've got to get rid of Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson does not look like he wants to be there anymore. This team, I mean, they said, the Khan son said this was the most, he had put this team together. He's like, Dad, look. And the owner was like, this is the most talented team we've ever had, and one of the most talented teams in the league. And they're getting beat by upwards of 20 points a week. But it's the most talented team he's seen. It's a joke. Jacksonville's a joke. Doug Peterson's going to be gone. I'm convinced. I mean, and I'll go through a list of teams where I think their head coaches are going to get fired. Because Doug Peterson, outside of that 1 year, has not done well. And you've now sabotaged Trevor Lawrence. He doesn't look like a generational talent anymore. I mean, it's kind of like what we're seeing with Caleb Williams. These guys who are so talented in college, they kind of breeze through. They come in the NFL and they don't pan out well. Bryce Young, Josh Rosen, Trevor Lawrence. Now Caleb Williams. It's just weird. But talking about guys who I think are going to get fired, I think Matt Eberflus, there's one. Dayball, Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy. Then you have Zach Taylor and Doug Peterson. There's 5 or 6 guys. Not on top of New York, the Jets don't have a head coach. New Orleans doesn't have a head coach. There's 7 or 8 spots open. It just doesn't. It's a wild time in the NFL. And there's going to be a lot of spots. The DC for the Chargers will probably get a spot. The 2 coordinators for the Lions are going to get a lot of head coaching attention. But David Johnson, or whatever his name is, does not want to leave. And the Lions keep upping his salary. He's had it for 2 straight seasons upped. They're like, we'll pay you more money, just stay. And he's like, well, I'm living the dream right now. We're beating people by a lot. We are in a prime time era. I'm going to keep doing my thing. And so, I like what his name's David Johnson. I think he stays. I don't think he leaves. I think the DC will leave. But, I mean, why leave Detroit? I understand head coaching, but, you right now can get 2-3 Super Bowls out of this team. Stay. And then when you see the writing on the wall, dip. You've done your job. You've done what you can. But up for the dudes of the week, there's a lot of them. I think 13? Yeah, 13. First off, it starts off with 3 straight lines. First off, Jared Goff, 412 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's insane. It's crazy. Second up, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 11 catches, 161 yards, 2 touchdowns. Played really well. Third up, Jameson Williams, 4 catches, 121 yards, 1 touchdown. That top 3, they look great every time they're out. And that's why Johnson, I don't believe he leaves because they play so well. that and he's doing such a great job. While they're beating teams so much that they're scheming up plays for their linemen to get touchdowns, and they're just coming up with just wild ways. Receivers, running backs throwing the ball, tight ends throwing the ball. There's no way that. I wouldn't leave. Fourth, Matthew Stafford, 295 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think they won last week. Fifth, I think this was a losing game. Jameson Winston, 395 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, when Jameson Winston is on, he's on. I mean, almost 400 yards passing. I mean, this is a whole different offense now. What was it last week where they... I would love to see who were the leading receivers last week. They lost to New Orleans. Nick Chubb, again, showed better. Jerry Jeudy had 142 yards. Elijah Moore had 66. Cedric Tillman had 47. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman all played well. Next up, and another Brown, Jerry Jeudy, 6 catches, 142 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, he played well. I mean, this is what they needed to see from him because it kind of looked like he was a bit of a bust, but he's shown that he's not. 7th, Taysom Hill, a great game. 7 carries, 138 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8 catches, 50 yards. He also threw a pass and completed a pass for 25 yards. He played great. I mean, Taysom Hill, right now, this team looks like they're going to be a fighter every week in the Saints. And I love it because you've lost Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. So you're just kind of playing with backups. 8th, Tua Tagovailoa, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's being the sniper. And next up is his tight end, who has played really well this year. Johnny Smith, 6 catches, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had a career game. Played out of his mind. Probably his best game that he's had since he was with the Titans. 10th, Brock Bowers. Had a historic game as a tight end. 13 catches, 126 yards, 1 touchdown. Out of his mind. I mean, now you give him a good quarterback and then you add another receiver. This Raiders offense is an issue. He should have been a Jet. I think the Jets are regretting this decision. 11th, Christian Watson, 4 catches, 150 yards. He didn't score a touchdown, but that's 4 catches, 150 yards, a little less than 50 yards a catch. 12th, Bo Nix, 307 yards passing, 4 touchdowns against the Falcons. Played out of his mind. I mean, and he's climbing up the rookie ladder. I don't have him in my top 5 yet necessarily, but I have him in the top 10, and he's climbing. And last but not least, Joe Mixon, 20 carries, 109 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, 2 catches, and 44 yards. It's a wild offensive week. It's a lot of big games from guys. So that's about it for that as well. Outside of that, I wrote this down and talk about the Commanders. The Commanders look good. Jaden Daniels being hurt is a bummer. But this is a team, they put the pieces together. Kind of like the Texans. They're a few pieces away. You add another receiver, you get out and get another offensive lineman, a linebacker, and maybe a safety. And this team is like golden. I mean, they can address a lot of these issues this year in free agency and in the draft. I think you draft Emmanuel Buka, you go out and you sign and draft a tackle, you potentially address tight end, and then you go out and you fix the defense a little bit back half of the draft. But I mean, they played well. I mean, this team is like the Texans of last year. They're just overdoing expectations, but there's not enough talent on this offense. And it's going to catch up at some point. But, I mean, they just played well. They're not ball. The only issue is Dante Fowler leading the team in interceptions. They're not ball hawking. And they need to. 4 interceptions on the year, but that will get better. This is a great group. I mean, this is Quan Martin. You can probably upgrade there. But I think everyone talks about that defensive line. You guys are here, Newton. You've got Deron Payne. Dante Fowler looks good. Dorrance Armstrong looks good. Quentin Farrell. Then, as well, you also have Jonathan Allen, Sheldon Day. there's a lot of good defensive linemen. This linebacking core, I started Jamin Davis, who I think they cut. Yeah, he now plays for Green Bay. He's the bust at 19. I mean, you upgraded your other linebacker smart. I mean, Frankie Louvu, but you've got to give him a running mate. So, I mean, you just address it at the inside linebacker position. They're really good. Last week's episode, I went in a lot on some of these teams. And it's a shame that we lost it. But he has, Frankie Love, Frankie Love, has 7 sacks. Harassing quarterbacks. I mean, what more do you need? What more do you need? Now, to the NBA. Right, and first off, we're starting off with the 76ers. I mean, this is bad. PG has not played well. Jared McCain is playing out of his mind. I have him as the Rookie of the Year candidate. Joel Embiid, it came out, so Tyrese Mack, they held a team meeting, and Tyrese Maxey called out Joel Embiid for not showing up to anything on time. And that is damning. I mean, that is huge. And then he comes out last night and says, whoever did that's a real piece of POS. Brother, you're just upset that your laundry just got aired out, and everyone knows what's wrong. You're not showing up to anything on time. And that is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. I mean, I'd be upset too. Because now everyone knows I'm not doing my job. I'm not showing up on time. Like, it's just bad. And then him to get all pissy about it, it was just stupid. It was just dumb. There's no reason to be that upset about you being called out. And I just don't like it. But I mean, personally, I give this year a run. And if you don't do good, you trade Joel Embiid, you trade Paul George, and you build around this backcourt of Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, and both of them have silver routes. They came from either Duke or Kentucky, and they were drafted in the 20s, and they've exploded. Jared McCain is going nuts, and he's still going off. I mean, let's look at the stats. So when I did the rookie rankings, he was averaging 14.8 points. He's now averaging 15.6, and he's shooting 41% from threes. Just elite. And he has yet to miss a free throw. Getting the 2.5, pretty much 3 assists a game. He is your future shooting guard because you have Maxey. And Maxey's now back. And you're seeing this group play together, and they are playing elite basketball together. It's just the rest of the squad. Kelly Oubre Kelly Oubre is a great role player, maybe a star. Paul George, 15 points a game. Shooting under 40%, under 39%. Kyle Lowry, I mean, how much longer are we going to let this brother play for? He's 38. His efficiency is tanked, but it's better in leadership. But I mean, that can only take you so far. Drummond looks good. Yabusele is playing out of his mind now. I mean, he's 29 now. I mean, I love what I see from him. Eric Gordon looks washed. KJ Martin, I can't figure him out, but he's shooting well. Reggie Jackson looks washed, and it's kind of saying they're not giving Ricky Council, who got him, I'm huge on, enough opportunity. It's just a bad squad. Embiid only averaging 20 points a game. Shooting under 40% himself, under 20% from 3. That's bad. Maxey's not having a great season either, but he's having to do so much, and he's only played 8 games. Embiid's played 4. He just, he fought a reporter because he hates being called out. I mean, him and Ben Simmons were 2 of the biggest sourpusses in the NBA, and it's showing now. Ben Simmons looks like a freaking joke. It's just bad, dude. They're 2-12 right now. Their season's pretty much over. Their hope is they can make it into the play-in and then do something. Because you're 10 games under 500. And you don't look like you're going to be winning games in bunches anytime soon. Nick Nurse, we're questioning his coaching ability. Right? Their expected win-loss is 3-11. Like, they're not even expected to win games. It's so bad. Their attendance is low. It's 25th out of the 30 teams in the league. They lost to a beat-up Memphis team that just cannot catch a break. And it's just a joke. It's just a joke. Cavaliers are 16-1. And they put their backups in last week. They rested most of their starters. And their first-round pick this year dropped 16, 11, and 7. Ty Jerome went off for almost 30. Now, yes, they played a just decimated Pelicans team. Yeah, Georges Niang dropped 20. JT Thor dropped 12. Jalen Tyson dropped 16. But this Pelicans team is just decimated. They got more injuries now. And they just cut Jalen Noel. And I think that he needs to be in the league. He's such a great scorer. A little bit inefficient. But to add Alfred Payton, Brandon Ingram's now down. They lost Jose Alvarado. Zion's going to be out for a while. They're looking to get back C.J. McCollum soon and DeJounte Murray. Missy was banged up a little bit, but he ended up playing last night. Their starting five is Alfred Payton, Brandon Boston, Missy, Javonte Green, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I think two of those. I think Earl is on a two-way. So they've got two guys on two-way starting. Then Jamal Cain's giving you 31 minutes, 9 points, not bad. Antonio Reeves played great last night. 34 points from him in 40 minutes. Second-round pick. I think actually he was undrafted. Is huge. No, Jeremiah Robinson Earl's not a two-way because it's Trey Jamison, Jamal Cain, and Brandon Boston. And Brandon Boston should get elevated here soon. He's done well. You can't fault the brother. Missy looks like the starting center of the future. Trey Murphy's dinged up again. That's who it is. Trey Murphy's hurt again. You're down. Let me find this. Let me find their injury report and then let me pull up their team. Because this is, okay, so the injury report, Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, Brandon Ingram, Herbert Jones, C.J. McCollum, Trey Murphy, DeJounte Murphy, and DeJounte Murray, and Zion Williams. That is huge. At some point, DeJounte's got to come back. Three guys are day-to-day, Brandon Ingram, C.J. McCollum, and Trey Murphy. Everybody else is out for a while. They just cut Jalen Noel after 8 games. He gave you 8.4 points. Now, bad efficiency, but still. Alfred Payton's back in the league after missing 2 years. He played 50 games in Phoenix in 2022, 3 points. Yeah, he was bad. But, he was good beforehand, so, he can't really shoot threes, but he's pretty good outside of that. This team is... Missy has played well. 7 points, 7 rebounds, a block and a steal. But Brandon Boston shooting 41%. Okay, yeah, his efficiency starting to tank. 41% from the field. But, he's playing well. He's giving you a steal and a half a game, too. 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He's 6th on your team in scoring. He's 23-2. So your top... One guy in the top 9 is healthy. One guy. Then 10, 2 guys out of the top 10 are healthy. And then you just keep going down here and it's just rough. I don't know what you do as them. But moving forward, the Cavs are cracked. The Celtics are cracked. The Knicks, they're playing 7 to 8 guys a game. It's a struggle for them. The Magic are like what? They're 4-6 in the last. No, 6-4 in the last few games. They're playing well. Franz Wagner is doing what he did his rookie year. The Heat are 5th. This Eastern Conference is bad. The Heat right now 6-7. Can't really figure them out. Pistons are 6th at 7-9, and they're playing well. The backcourt of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, like everyone hoped, is playing well, right? Let me pull up their stats. Because they're playing pretty good basketball right now. Kate Cunningham, 23.3 points on 45% from the field, 37% from three. He's also giving you 9 assists, 7 rebounds, a steal, and a block a game. Ivy's giving you 18.5, a steal, 4 assists, 4 rebounds on 42% from the field, 36% from three. It's great. Malik Beasley's been giving you 15.5 from 41% from the field. Jalen Duren, 9 points, 10.5 rebounds, and a block a game. Isaiah Stewart's playing well now. Fonciano's played well. Ron Holland's giving you 6 points, but there's a whole lot of upside. Wendell Moore has been added to the rotation. He's playing well. Sasser's had a down year. But, I mean, this team is deep. I like what I've seen. I mean, they're going to get Asar Thompson back here soon. And the issue is Asar can't shoot threes to save his life. So, like, the worry is he may just fall out of the rotation. Because you can't, like, you're at this point. You're sixth in the Eastern Conference. You're right now would not be in the play-in. You've got to keep fighting. Now the Bucks, you would expect they would move forward. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They're getting better. I mean, you would expect them to move up. The Hawks, Dyson Daniels right now playing out of his mind. He's DPOY candidate right now. He's putting up insane numbers on defense, and everyone says the numbers were inflated. So which means they weren't pretty much real. He's averaging 3.1 steals a game and a block. He's also shooting 47% from the field, 30% from three, and 60% from the free throw line, but still giving you 15 points. In 5 rebounds, 3 assists. It's just great. I mean, he's just playing out of his mind. They wanted a guy that played defense beside Trae Young. When they traded DeJounte, they got him back, and he looks great. He looks great. He's having the same amount of impact that DeJounte had. Then you had Larry Nance, Cody Zeller, and a first. That trade's working out well, especially for the Pelicans are just destroyed with injuries. But the Hawks are going to be moving up because DeJounte hurt. DeAndre Hunter's back. Bogdan's back. You're getting other guys back. They're getting healthy. VT Gritchick, Kobe Buffkin, both coming back. The Nets, 8th, just suck. I'm not high on them. Pacers, they signed a center, Moses Brown, because they lost James Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson. I don't know. I'm not high on them. The Bulls, well, they don't look good, man. They don't. They've got to stop trying to put mediocre players together and hoping one of them goes off and just win game. Like, they just got to tank at this point. You've got to reset the whole thing. Like the Hornets did. The Hornets did not try to send mediocreness just because they had LaMelo. They're like, hit the reset button. The Hornets, like I said, they've been decimated by injury, especially at the center position, like other teams. This Musa Badite, he's averaging like double-digit rebounds. And I love what I see from him. The Raptors, awful. And they've done what the Bulls should do. They kind of just reset and put R.J. Barrett, Manuel Quickley, and Scotty Barnes, all three together. Drafted Grady Dick. You have Bruce Brown, who's going to get traded. Agba. And they got to figure out center. They look decent. The Wizards, and I talked about this in the last episode, they've got a great young core. They've hit on all 3 draft picks, I believe, right? So, Bob Carrington, or Carlton Carrington, 10 points, 5.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 1.3 steals. He's not shooting the ball. Like, none of them are shooting the ball great, but he's shooting the ball 43% from the field, 35% from 3, 80% from the free throw line. He's also giving, the steal. He's all-around great guard. Alexander Sarr, if he can tone back the threes because he's shooting 12 or 21% from 3, he'd be doing great. But he's just chucking up threes because he thinks he's Victor. But he's giving you 6 rebounds, 2.4 blocks, and a steal a game already. And then their other first-round pick, Keyshawn George, who was 6'2" a year ago, 6'8" now. He's giving you 10 points, 4.4 rebounds, a steal, a block, and 37% from the field. Not the greatest, but, it's going to get better, right? They're going to give them all the opportunity in the world. And I'm huge on. I like this Wizards team. I mean, they've got. I mean, there's your big three. You have also Billy Colaby, who they drafted last year. Yes, they're 2-11, but that's a young forward core. Then you got Corey Kispert, Jordan Poole. Jonas Valanciunas is going to get traded, so you're going to get like a first round pick back. You're going to then trade Kyle Kuzma, and you're going to get maybe 2. Malcolm Brogdon's going to net you maybe some seconds. And maybe another young player. And then if you want to trade Jordan Poole, because he's having a great year right now, there's another first or 2. They're going to get a lot of picks. And it's going to, I mean, they had 3 last year. I mean, I don't know what they're. I don't know what are their draft picks next year. They didn't have a first round pick last year because they traded Jarris Walker to Indiana. They technically had 2, but they acquired 2 more. They acquired another one and traded Dylan Jones, so they acquired 2 picks. Johnny Davis not panned out at all. They traded Denny Avdija. Rui Hachimura's been traded. Troy Brown's not with the team anymore. Jaren Grant out of the league. Jordan Clarkson's with the Jazz. Otto Porter pretty much out of the league. Bradley Beal's traded. They've missed on first round pick after first round pick after first round pick. They really hit on 2. Bradley Beal and John Wall. Otto Porter was solid. Clarkson got traded, but he was the second round. Rui Hachimura traded. Adia traded. Kispert is going to get traded, and he'll net you some seconds as well because he's older and he's a shooter. And teams that need shooting are going to go after him. If I'm the Bucks, I'm trying to get Corey Kispert. I need shooting. If I'm the Lakers, I need shooting. Go get Corey Kispert. He'll fetch you some seconds. Right? Last year, so many first-round picks were switched because this draft class looked weak. And I mean, I'll say this now. I don't necessarily see a superstar in this league, or in this draft class. I see a lot of stars and above-average rotation players. And I see Jared McCain, Zaki, Rishache, Carrington, Sarr, Castle, George, maybe Filipowski, and Missy, and Ron Holland, and Klingon. All above-average players. All stars. Maybe Cody Williams, but Cody Williams has not played well. He's shooting 26% from the field. I have him ranked as the 20th rookie. Only really 20 rookies have played meaningful minutes. Connect looks like an above-average. It looks like an average to above-average rotation player. Jalen Wells looks like a good rotational player. Ryan Dunn looks like a defensive stopper. Filipowski is getting better every game he plays, and he's putting up great stats. I like what I see. Ron Holland's got great upside. Missy looks like a starting center, but there's no, superstar. Maybe McCain and Edey, because Edey's shooting threes now. He's shooting 68% from 3, and that's insane. McCain, he's averaging 20 minutes per game. It was 14.8 points at the time of this. It's now up to 15.6, and that's like 22 minutes average per game. So when he goes up to 30, because he's going to be starting 2 guard, he may be averaging close to 20 points per game. And that's insane for a rookie. The reason why Victor could do that, and I'm going to go on my rant about him in a second, is because he's like a unicorn. But I love the Wizards young core. Yes, they're going to be terrible. And man, if they get Cooper Flagg, holy cow. I mean, cross your fingers if they get Cooper Flagg. Because they need him. And then this team will be cracked. And the 76ers are the worst team in the East. I mean, I've already gone on my rant. There's nothing you can do. Blow the team up pretty much because it's not working out. Moving to the Western Conference. The Warriors, DeAnthony Melton tore his ACL. But this team, they did what they needed to do. They surrounded Steph Curry with defensive players and shooters. And that's what they're doing. Kuminga's playing well, but I don't know what... That whole situation's weird because he's playing well and they like him, but they won't extend him. And he wants a little bit too much money, but he likes being there. It makes no sense, right? But they're playing 12 guys deep, and he said... Stephen Kerr said... Kerr said he's not going to stop till after 30 games. He's figuring out his team. And they're winning games. They're 11-3. He's playing 12 guys not. So imagine when he cuts that rotation down and he's giving these other guys big minutes. Lindy Waters has played well. I've been high on Lindy Waters since he entered the league. Buddy Hield, Popchevsky, Trace Jackson Davis. Wiggins is playing well. I mean, Let me look at this team here. You got Buddy Hield averaging 16.5. Wiggins is 16.2. Draymond's playing great again. Curry's only averaging 23 points a game. Pavlovsky 7.5. Kuminga 13.7, and that needed that. DeAnthony Melton was 10.3 in 6 games, but he's torn his ACL. Kuminga is a little bit down, and it's a shame. His shooting percentages are down as well, and it's about the same attempts as last year. I'm not huge on that. Defensively, he's playing a little bit better. I just can't figure him out. I mean, he's got all the tools, and I said this before, he's got all the tools and athleticism to be a freaking superstar. He's just got to shoot the 3-point better, and he's just got to be more efficient and just be more committed. Trayson Jackson-Davis, great as a center, as their center. Kyle Anderson's back coming in and out of the rotation. He's shooting terrible from 3, terrible overall. Moses Moody's got 9 points a game. You got Gary Payton, too, who's a dog defensively. I mean, those are 13 guys. You take out DeAnthony Melton, you're down to 12. You take out Kyle Anderson, you're down to 11. So you've got to figure out who you want. Lindy Waters or Gary Payton. And I think that's going to be on a night-to-night basis because one brings a lot of shooting and one brings elite defense. And you're just going to have to pick which one you want. And maybe you play them both. Maybe you play 11 guys. I don't know. This is a great roster. They made a deep team. I mean, and they're good. And second up is the Thunder. And they just got back Isaiah Hartenstein. They were down. Check Holmgren, which, I mean, it's his legs, it's his hips. I mean, everyone will say the guy that skinny, that tall, it's going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen. But it's worth it. He's out for 6 to 8 weeks. Jalen Williams is out for 4 to 6. And Hartenstein's missed the whole season up till the other night. So they're playing the other Jalen Williams, the first-round pick Jalen Williams, at the center. Aaron Wiggins was playing the 4. Hartenstein did not start, but he played like 15 minutes a game. Or 15 minutes. And played well. They won last night. So, and he dropped a decent bit of points. They're 6-4 in their last 10. I mean, it's what you want to see, right? The Lakers are 10-4. Dalton Connect went off. And this is like what they needed. Because McCain went before them, and that would have been scary if they got Jared McCain. Connect had 37 points and hit 9 3-pointers. That's the most from a rookie. I think Steph was 7. He's a microwave scorer. In Utah, I mean, that team is bad. And he was like, yeah, everybody in the stadium knew but our guys that he was going to shoot. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. The Rockets are 11-5. I like them. The Lakers have won 6 straight. And that team's banged up. They haven't had Christian Wood, Jared Vanderbilt, and other guys back. And they're doing that good. Don Connect playing out of his mind. I mean, Dave Vincent, I'm not high on. And come to find out, they love him, but he's never shot well. They're 10-4. I mean, J.J. Redick, I said this before, everyone's like, oh, he might not be a good coach. He has a high upside to be a Hall of Fame head coach. Like, the brother's brain is huge when it comes to basketball. It's unreal. He's a basketball savant. And he's just creating plays. Rui Hachimura looks good. D'Angelo Russell looks like trash. But Connect shooting 52% from the field, 46% from 3, averaging 5 threes a game. Anthony Davis is averaging 31 points a game, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal. LeBron, 23.5, 8 rebounds, 10 assists. And he's playing, I mean, they're both shooting over 50%. Anthony Davis is close to 60, and both are shooting over 40% from 3. Rui's shooting 50% from 3. I mean, that's outrageous. And then Cam Reddish, he went from being an offensive superstar to defensive weapon. Now, the stats say otherwise. It's a steal a game, but Gabe Vincent, still not shooting efficiently. Jackson Hayes is looking better, 6 points, 4.5 rebounds. And then Max Christie looks good. Christian, he's shooting a little bit better. Christian Coloco looks good. Bronny James still looks like dog trash. He's averaging 0.7 points per game. And then Jalen Hood's portfolio is going to get cut. But you look, the top 6, so this team is not deep at all. They get hit by any more injuries, and I know they still have yet to get back So actually, they are kind of deep. Jared Vanderbilt and Christian Wood. And it came out yesterday that Vanderbilt's ramp-up process has gone slower. So he'll be reevaluated in a couple of weeks. He's going to be out for a bit. Scafolio's out. Hayes is out. But I mean, so they get hit with one more big injury. Right? Russell goes down or Rui goes down. They're cooked. But they look good. At fully healthy, they're going to be a good team. And a lot of credit has to be given to J.J. Redick. He's putting the guys in the right position. Do I think they're championship contenders? No. But I think he's doing what he needed to show that he belonged as a head coach. Next up, the Nuggets. And they're giving a lot of young guys a lot of opportunity. Peyton Watson, a former first-round pick, is playing well. He's averaging 15 a game? And he's got great upside, too. I mean, he's 22? That's 10 points, but he started 6 games. Strother, 9.5 points, too. And we got to figure out the backup center spot with Zeke Naji and Dario Saric. But Saric has started 3 games in place of Jokic. He's averaging 30 points, 12 assists, and 14 rebounds. He's leading the league in assists and rebounds. That is crazy. And he gives you a block and 2 steals a night. And he's leading the league in 3-point percentage with 56% from 3. Holy cow. He's shooting better from 3 than he is from the field. He's played 38 minutes a night. The only reason why he's out is because of personal reasons. Michael Porter Jr., 18.3 points. Shooting well. Jamal Murray's not shooting efficiently. Christian Braun, who was going to be not a guy we expect to shoot score a lot, 16.2 points. Now it's 13 games, and this is all going to go downhill at some point, but 42% from 3, 55% from the field. I mean, that's great. And then Westbrook off the bench, 10.5 points, 6 assists, 4.5 rebounds, 1 steal, and about a block a game. He's playing pretty darn well. And this is a good team, and they're going to get healthy. And they're missing their rookie, Daron Holmes, but it gives him a year to develop. This Nugget team is good. Then you have the Timberwolves, and I mean, this trade backfired. Dante looks good, but Julius Randle does not. At all, and I said this was going to happen. I said that he was he was not going to look good. He doesn't fit. He's not good offensively. They're 8-6. What are his stats? 22 points a game, 50%. I just don't like it. I don't buy it. Rudy Gobert does not look great. Defensively, he's about 2 blocks a game, 11 points, 10 rebounds. Jaden McDaniels has kind of regressed. Dante's being very inefficient. Mike Conley's showing his age. 32% from the field. It's bad. Naz Reid's giving you 15.2. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's giving you 9 points a game. And he's finally being efficient. But Rob Dillingham, who is pretty much your future point guard, has to get more run time. Tarek Shannon needs more run time. He's 24. Luka Garza deserves minutes. Josh Minot deserves minutes. Leonard Miller deserves minutes. And then they were talking about all year, all offseason, about how those guys were going to get playing time. And they haven't. They're just not. And it's a bit of a joke. I just can't. Leonard Miller and Josh Minot, when they play decent minutes, they play well. You also have Joe Ingles. But you're playing, let's look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 deep. And it's not a good 9. Mike Conley and Julius Randle's averaging a lot, but again, he's just not. He disappears a lot of nights and plays bad defensively. They're 8th in the league in scoring. They're 11th in defensive rating, but I still not huge on them. They're 15th in points per game. I just don't like it. The Suns starting getting hit with injuries with KD and Beal, but Ryan Dunn's playing well. They're 9-7. That's the 3rd place team in the East. 8th, the Grizzlies are 9-7, and they're healthy again. That's scary. They're starting to get healthy. They're not all the way back. But, Edie's out day to day. G.G. Jackson's still out. John Morant's out. Marcus Smart's day to day. And Vince Williams is out as day to day. But he's back in. And now I'm worried for Vince Williams because maybe he's missed the window. He gets promoted, right? He's on the end of his two-way contract. He balls out because you have all these injuries. And he comes in and he starts playing. And he plays well. Fill in what you missed with Dylan Brooks. Right? Giving you great defensive presence. About a steal and block a game. 10 points. 38% from the three-point line, right? That's great. I mean, you're loving it. And it's efficient, and he misses a lot of time, and Jalen Wells comes in, and he's lighting it up. I mean, he is giving you 11.7 points from 44% from the field, 37% from three. No, it's not defensively, but, I mean, still, and you have Desmond Bane, who's giving you a steal, 17 points. He's a sniper. Santi Aldama, 13 points. I mean, again, I still believe Santi Aldama, if you put him on another team, if you put him on the Blazers, he's a star. He's a star. But John Morant's out. But, I mean, this team is deep. We're looking at 13 guys deep here because Brandon Clark's giving you solid minutes as your starting five occasionally. Marcus Smart's a good player. He's more of your defensive stopper. At this point of his age, Zach Edey's hitting threes. And Lord Almighty, and I said this in the last episode, the episode with the rookie rankings, and I've got to promote that one. If he starts hitting threes, it's great. He looks great. But, I mean, his defense, his footwork's not bad. His footwork's not bad at all. It looks good. He looks great. I mean, this team looks... I mean, they're deep. They are deep. The Clippers, they're a mess. Not high on them. Mavericks, they're 8-7. Kyrie and Luka both hurt, but they're going to get healthy at some point. But I'm not high on them either. Klay Thompson's a mid-third star. Their bench is a hole outside of Najee Marshall. I mean, yeah, the Kings, I'm not high on them either. Their bench is trash. I think you need a solid bench. At least 8 to 9 guys. The Spurs, I think if they just make it in the play-in, they'll be fine. That's all they need to do. Victor Wembanyama is going to change basketball. And I went on this rant before. He looked like he is 7'3", with the shooting ability of KD and the handles of a guard. He scored 50 points. Now, Giannis put up 59, but he had 8 threes. He's 7'3". Imagine if he starts putting his back under the basket more. He can pull it up from the logo. That's why you're seeing guys like Donovan Cleaning and Outsar and Edey and other huge guys, Chet Holmgren. They're going to have, the emphasis is going to be put so much more on them because Wembanyama, especially in the West, in 2 to 3 years, they're going to be able to go on a run with him. And I think he may end up being the greatest player of all time. Now, it depends on what he does in the postseason. If he wins some chips, then yes, he is. But he's got to. Postseason performance means a lot because MJ's postseason and LeBron's postseason performances has cemented them, and Kobe. But we're looking at a guy, he's already averaging over 20 points per game, over double-digit rebounds. He's averaging 23 points per game, 10.5 rebounds, 3.7 blocks, 1.3 steals. He's doing it shooting 47% from the field, 34% from three, and 87% from the free throw line. I mean, it looks great. We're looking at a guy that can probably give you 35, 15, 4 blocks, 7 assists, and 2 steals. He's going to win multiple DPOYs. Will probably go down as the greatest defensive player of all time. And it's going to win multiple MVPs. And this team is, I mean, they're coming together. This team is starting to play good basketball. They are 7-8. They are great defensively. You have Chris Paul, who is helping develop Stephon Castle, who's your future point guard. You have Keldon Johnson, who I think they should trade, net them some future picks. They almost had Rob Dillingham. Devin Vassell is a great shooting guard, good defensive player. Harrison Barnes is your gap player at small forward. Jeremy Squatchwan is an interesting player. A lot. They tried him at point guard. I don't know. The court is still out on him, right? Then you have Malachi Branham playing well. Blake Wesley. I mean, this team is good. Zach Collins. This team is great. It's good. And if they can, Julian Champagne, 10.5 to 11 points, 5 rebounds. He's shooting 44% from the field. This team, and if they get Victor Wembanyama slowly in the playoffs, and he starts to get his feet wet in the playoffs and understand playoff basketball, heaven forbid, it's going to be scary. I'm just going to say that he has the potential to be the greatest player of all time. And it's going to be scary. Next up, the Trailblazers, and they're a mess. But Donovan Clingan's starting now because they have injuries at the center position. And I think Anthony Simons is going to get traded. But they're 6-9. They're playing well. We talked about the Pelicans, and the Jazz are just abysmal. Kobe Williams does not look good right now. And they have Isaiah Collier, but he's not scoring a lot. That team, there's a lot of questions. They got a lot of developmental questions right now. But hopefully, that's the end of today's episode. Hopefully, the podcast is in the studio next week. Last week's recording, it was a good episode. We lost it. It's very disappointing. But yeah, that's all for today's episode. It went a little bit longer because I had to cover some of the things from last week that got lost in the recording that I really wanted to talk about. But yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next episode.